Hey
Okay, you're live.
everybody, it's Dr. Stacy for the laws of. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Saying that it's unstable now.
I can hear you.
Are we stable? Okay, good. So let's try
I
this
think we're
again.
stable.
Sorry about
I
that.
can see you.
Okay.
No problem.
All right, well, let's try again. So I wanted to tell my story about what brought me to my subject today, because I was a little unsure about it. And I was walking the dog with my fiance the other night, and I had just started thinking about what I wanted to do. And as I'm walking in the dark at 10 o'clock at night, I start talking about masturbation. And I said, you know what? I said, I have a couple clients that are struggling right now with it, men and women. And I thought it might be a really good subject. So as I'm walking, I just said, yeah, you know what? I think I want to talk about masturbation. And as soon as I said that, one of my neighbors comes out with his two dogs and walks right by and looks at me and goes, that's always a good subject. So kind of got my little go ahead to talk about masturbation today.
There you go. I don't think anyone will argue with that topic, and it's a taboo topic. Not a lot of people talk about it. So this is a good conversation because not a lot of people have it.
Absolutely. And so I thought that once, he gave me the go ahead at 10 o'clock at night, I decided to talk about masturbation. So George Carlin, the comedian, he said, if God had intended us not to masturbate, he would have made our arms shorter. So I'm picturing like a T-Rex, like a T-Rex with your arms like there, what a T-Rex would be able to do, right? So
Awesome.
because we have long arms, we're made to masturbate. Sounds good?
Exactly. It's so obvious. Why didn't we all think about this?
Absolutely. You have to have long arms just so you can masturbate. So there's a lot of shame and a lot of guilt that some people have towards masturbation. And so that's why I picked it as my subject. I thought it was a very important subject to have. And some people are like, okay, well, what is really considered masturbation? And what it is, it's the stimulation that you do on your own to your genitals. And it helps you achieve pleasure, arousal, and a lot of times it helps you get to orgasm. And that's basically the point of masturbation, is to try to please yourself and potentially have an orgasm. And you can do it by touching yourself, stroking yourself, massaging yourself, whatever you need to be able to reach that orgasm. And then here it says some women also use stimulation of the vagina to masturbate by using sex toys. And so I think it's very important for people to, first of all, understand that masturbation is something that you're doing to yourself for pleasure and arousal, and that you can use aids to help you.
Absolutely.
Make sure the aid is really cute too. I'm just kidding.
Now, here's a question I have to ask you. Does the practice of masturbation take away from the sexual experience later in the bedroom? In other words, if someone's planning on having sex later that night, is it better to not do it?
Well, what happens, it depends, because some people, like let's say men, sometimes might take a little longer to get past that period where they need to recoup some of their energy back. So it depends. I mean, if you're going to masturbate in the morning, you should be okay to have sex and do things in the evening. But what happens sometimes is that if you have this desire and drive, if you just did it, you may not necessarily have that desire and drive to do it later on. So sometimes if you know you might be intimate, it might be better to put it off a little bit. Try to build up that excitement, or kind of fantasize in your head, instead of what you can do to yourself, maybe what your partner can do to you.
Makes sense. Conserve the energy a little bit.
Yeah, because a lot of people will think that, okay, well, I'm struggling with orgasm, I'm struggling with erectile dysfunction, but what's going on is that they're masturbating 6-7 times a week, and then wondering why they struggle with orgasms when they're being intimate with their partner.
So
Sometimes it could be too.
there could be a relationship between doing it too often and ED.
Absolutely, absolutely. Plus, sometimes when you're doing it too much, and what is considered too much, it's kind of hard to say. It depends on if you see that there are effects of your relationship. So if, let's say, you're doing it 6, 7, 8 times a week, and you are struggling with erectile issues, or you can't come, or you're not able to get the erection, a lot of times your body is getting used to a typical feeling or a typical motion or a typical sensation that you're doing for yourself. So it is possible. It is possible. But you really have to do it a lot.
That's good.
So it's a good question. It's a good question because I do get that a lot. But the slide here talks about the tabooness of masturbation. And basically, years ago in the 19th century, they considered it a disease. So the American Medical Association said that masturbation was abnormal. And I like this quote because it says the primary sexual activity of mankind. That's what masturbation is. In the 19th century, it was a disease. In the 20th, it was a cure. And this was somebody from the American Psychiatric Association. So the whole idea behind this thing that I put on here is that years ago, people used to look at masturbation as terrible, like you were sick. There was something wrong with you. And now people use it for stress relief. People use it to learn about their bodies. People use it for fun. So there's that difference between the mentality from the 19th century to the 20th century.
And Cheryl in your live audience on Facebook says, she just threw out a comment, mutual masturbation at the same time in the bedroom can be fun too, just to change.
Hell yeah, you go, girl. But it's true. Mutual masturbation is really good when you are kind of looking at your partner while they're doing something to themselves. It helps you learn how to please your partner. And same thing with you watching the other person. You're sitting there and you're like, I don't know, he masturbates all the time. I never get to see him. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to touch him right. But if you're watching how he moves his hand and how he cups the end of his penis or how she flickers on her clit, things like that, you're watching it.
It's like, a training. Give each other a training session, education.
And it's fun too. And it's hot and it's erotic. But a lot of people have a difficult time getting past the point of how do I do this with my partner?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people can't even do that situation because a lot of people, believe it or not, are not comfortable with their own sexuality and they're not comfortable with their own nudity. I mean, there's some people that don't even go to the bathroom in front of each other. There's some people that don't change in front of each other. So there's a lot of presumption that everyone is 100% comfortable. A lot of this comes from confidence. A lot of confidence is necessary and self-love to get to these points.
Right. Well, there is a joke about when 100 men surveyed and asked how many people masturbate. 95% raised their hand and the other 5% are lying. There is a difference between men and women with masturbating. And men do tend to masturbate more, but there's a difference. What happens many times is that men might masturbate more because they're not getting enough or they're mismatched sex drives. So rather than either putting pressure on their partner, sometimes they'll masturbate, where women masturbate more when they're more sexually active, as opposed to men masturbate more when they're less sexually active. So men kind of use it more as not taking place of, but kind of to help with some of that, where women kind of complement the sex. So
that's
which
true.
I'm going to go into it a little bit more because I have one of my slides that talks a little bit about that. But I think mutual masturbation is great, but it is important to be able to do it on your own first, so you get to feel comfortable in your skin and your own body.
Agreed.
So, this next slide, I know you're kind of like, okay, cornflakes, what is this all about?
Seriously, what is this about?
This is Kellogg, Mr. Kellogg, who invented cornflakes. And the reason why I have him, not because it's some weird fetish I have against cornflakes, but he was a physician, and he and his brother created cornflakes, Kellogg's cornflakes, and also graham crackers and granola to be as bland as possible because they believed that those types of foods would curb the desire to masturbate. It's crazy because Kellogg, did not believe in masturbation, did not believe in sex. And he was married. And because they did not believe in sex, they actually adopted children because they didn't feel that they thought the erections and desires were a sin.
What?
So sugar, if you had a cereal, he noticed that when you have sugar in a cereal or sugar in food, you're going to crave it more. And so that's kind of what he thought with sex. So he related putting sugar and good tasting food and craving it as to, well, if you do that, then you're going to be craving more sex.
Unbelievable.
So that's why he made these foods to be very, very bland to help curb masturbation and sexual desire.
So that's literally his so the famous manufacturer of Kellogg's cereal wanted to suppress our sexual appetite and hence made Special K?
Close. What happened is that I actually did one of my research papers on Kellogg, which is why I
No
just find
way.
it. Yes. So what happened is that he and his brother Will were both in the medical field, and he had asked Will to come in and help him push this food. And Will's like, you know what? It tastes terrible. There's nothing to it. And John Kellogg was like, no, this is what I want. We got to get people to stop masturbating. And they wound up getting into this argument. He took off, he changed the recipe slightly, added some sugar, and took off with Kellogg's cornflakes. And John Kellogg is out of the picture. So the good one who wanted to make it tasty is the one that actually got to the cornflakes.
That's crazy. Karma.
Yeah. There was a lot of other things that they did which are actually much worse to try to curb people to masturbate, but that gets really ugly and there's other things. So this was just something that was not as bad.
There was a lot of shame over the years associated with sex, and it's a tough.
Yeah, there's a lot of people
evolution
past it. So comes to this scene right here where masturbation is the most common form of human sexuality on the planet. So even if you don't have a partner or you don't have another human being, people are masturbating. And being that it is the most common form of sexuality on the planet, and being that there's so much shame behind it, it's sad.
It really is. I'm sure a lot of the biggest challenges you deal with is still shame around sex. And people having to, well, it's sort of like what you were talking about last week. Everybody has to do what they want to do, that they're comfortable, forget about the judgment, and just build a discreet sexual relationship with your partner and do what works for you in the relationship. There should be no shame in sex.
I think what happens is that because for so many years, the opposite of shame is innocence. And when you're young and you're born with the desire for curiosity. You're born with this desire to learn and discover. And so when you have kids touching themselves or exploring themselves, and they're touching their fingers and they're touching their toes, you're like, oh, look, they're playing with their feet. They're playing with it. As soon as their hand goes to their penis or their vagina, don't touch that. So you're automatically putting that innocence of discovery and exploration and curiosity into shame. And that goes to masturbation through the years.
So
you don't let kids lock the door because you're afraid they're going to be doing something. You open up the door and you catch them and you're like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. What you need to do is basically just say, listen, it's okay that you do that, but do it in the privacy of your room. You don't want to shame people for masturbating because it affects relationships as you get older.
That's well said.
Yes, thank you. On the next slide, one thing that I found interesting is that the people that have more sex Oops, I think we're one slide ahead. Yep, there you go. People who have more sex actually tend to masturbate more. And those who have low levels of sex report lower levels of masturbation and decreased desire. So many times, as a sexologist and a sex coach, what we try to do for people that necessarily don't have desire, I ask them, how often are you masturbating? And majority of them are like, I don't, or I don't feel like it, or I don't need to. And a lot of those people are women, not saying all, but a lot of them.
Mhm.
So what I try to recommend many times is that if you don't have the desire and you don't have a libido, try to masturbate. It kind of wakes your body up. Does
Definitely.
that make sense?
Well, I have always said, you have to know how to satisfy yourself before you can teach someone else to. And
Right.
it's a good practice. It's normal, it's natural,
Sure.
and it helps educate your partner about what to do. And Cheryl said it also helps with stress relief and migraines.
Well, if you go to my next page, sex facts. Cheryl, did you
Oh,
read my PowerPoint beforehand?
Cheryl, you must have read Stacy's
I
PowerPoint.
read my sex facts. If it's Cheryl, I think it is, she might be on my intimacy page and learning lots from there as well as some of her own experiences. But here, we'll start with the second point of the sex facts. Masturbation can help curb menstrual cramps and also can help get rid of migraines. Because what's happening is you're releasing these hormones. And I think I discussed this on the one that we talked about in orgasms the other week. Orgasms can help with migraines and all that because you're opening up your vessels, your blood vessels, allowing increase of some blood flow to go through and not having any blockages. And you're helping with the blood, especially with like menstrual cramps, you're helping with the blood going in the uterus to help with menstrual cramps. So if you have your period, masturbate.
And Cheryl says, yes, it's the Stacy that it's the Cheryl that you think it is. She also said when she was playing and partying more, she was masturbating more. But now that she's with her son more and has less booty time, she's masturbating less and having sex less. So she agrees with you on all counts.
100%. And that's the point, is that when you're having the opportunity to masturbate more, you're usually enjoying sex more or having the desire for sex more. And here another sex facts about Kegels. Pelvic floor exercises help tone the vagina, and masturbating helps keep your pelvic floor strong, healthy. It keeps you, as you're getting older, to tighten things up so you're not peeing in your pants when you laugh. I'm kind of at the age now where I have to really tighten my pelvic so I don't pee in my pants. That's
Oh my
TMI.
God,
I'm sorry.
that's so funny.
But that's what it's all about. So Kegels, menstrual cramps, all these things are great for masturbation to help. And believe it or not, on the next page, take a look at some of these crazy machinery that
What?
physicians used to recommend for hysteria. In the 20th century, they used to treat women that had hysteria by allowing them to masturbate or by masturbating them. And
That's
so these
crazy.
were some of the first types of masturbation toys. They were crazy and they needed to be able to release somehow. And that's, doctors actually used to give them a prescription for a vibrator.
Unbelievable. Where are those prescriptions today, huh?
Right here, I'm telling you. Dr. Stacy says masturbate. That's my law of sex. We can't get there yet.
There you go. I like it.
So moving to the next one where I get asked all the time is very similar, but this one was just sent to me through a private message. Asked Dr. Stacy, I sometimes catch my husband masturbating and it bothers me. He says it's normal and I shouldn't get mad. Is there something wrong with him and why does he need to if we are having sex? That
Mhm.
is a very common thing where men get shamed for masturbation very often because the women get upset. Well, if I'm here, why does he need to masturbate? Women and men have different desires, different needs. And I think it's very important to allow each person to fulfill their needs, especially if it's with themselves. The only time I think that there's an issue or a problem is when it affects the relationship. So this person, if you're listening, if this masturbation is affecting the connection that the two of you have, and you're not getting your needs met because he's too busy masturbating, or he's too busy getting off, and so he's not, like kind of what you talked about earlier, Blanca, about him masturbating or somebody masturbating and then not being ready for your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Those situations where there could be an issue.
It's you know what? It's the Socratic golden mean. Everything in moderation. Moderation. If you're going to masturbate too much, you're not going to be on your game for your sex life. Just
Right.
like if you sleep too much or you eat too much, you know, everything is balanced. If you work too much, your sex life's going to suck too, because you're going to become disconnected emotionally and sexually from your partner. So you just have to find the balance.
Right, perfectly said. And so, masturbation, there is nothing wrong with masturbation, even within a marriage, as long as it doesn't take the place of your partner. But there needs to be a discussion. If you feel that your needs are not being met, I'm speaking to this person who asked the question, if your needs are not being met, then it needs to be discussed. But otherwise, go, if he's doing his thing, you go do yours.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be an issue unless it's negatively impacting the balance.
Right. And
And
that's basically
yeah, you don't want to make everything an issue because then you're just going to drive a wedge between you guys too.
right. And that helps keep the honesty and the vulnerability and the respect in the relationship. And basically the next slide says the same thing, that while it is a normal activity, it can be a problem if it inhibits sexual activity with your partner. It causes distress to the person. So if you're the one who's masturbating and you say, I gotta stop, I can't stop, what's going on? Then it's a problem for you. Or obviously if it's performed in public, that's something that's kind of frowned upon.
True. Yeah.
So some of the toys that might be really helpful for masturbation is on the next slide, and this is called the gripper. And today is Toy Talk Thursday. So any toy that you see today, in addition to your entire order, you can go on to my site at drstacyfriedman.com and click on the shop link. Use TTT for Toy Talk Thursday 20, TTT 20, and you get 20% off of everything. But I wanted to show you what this is basically. It's a gripper. This one, everyone is different, but this one you have a hold and it has a hole. You have a hold and it has a hole. And it can come out of the container to be washed, but it's something that you can use to go in and out and masturbate. They're called pocket pussies, masturbation sleeves, things like that. So this specific one that is on the screen is called the gripper, but it's also, a lot of them are kind of hidden, so you can keep in a drawer in case you have young kids or something like that. You can hide it. So that's kind of a fun masturbation toy for a man. Also, if you go and travel, it's something that you can stick in your travel case and find it if you get your luggage opened. And then on the next slide, what is also helpful when you're masturbating is doing Benoit balls. So Benoit balls help tighten the vagina, helps allow, like I was talking about, keeping you tight. So for pregnancy purposes, after pregnancy, after you've delivered, you want to tighten up a little bit, helping with the urinating when you're laughing and just helping doing Kegels when you are being intimate with your partner. It's a lot of fun to Kegel on them. So that way you're tight while you're, going up and down, you're actually using your Kegel muscles. So when you're masturbating, it might be fun to do this and allow yourself to practice with that. If anyone has any questions about Benoit balls, they can call me, because sometimes people are like, what do you do with that? 50 Shades of Grey, I couldn't keep them in stock when 50 Shades came out.
So funny.
Yeah, couldn't keep them in stock. So
I love it.
that's some things that you can do with masturbation. And I think that because there is so much shame with masturbation, it's very important, like you said, Blanca, that people have to get to know themselves. And I help people get rid of some of that shame, learn their bodies, play with their bodies, all that good stuff. And basically, if you go to my laws of sex, what my law of sex is don't knock masturbation. It's sex with someone you love by Woody Allen. And
Love
that's the way
that.
you have to look at it.
I love my boy Woody Allen.
It makes sense. It's sex with someone you love. And so when people have that shame, they're not looking at it as, they're looking at it a lot of times as a sin, which is what a lot of people were taught years ago. And that was taught to them. It's with somebody you love. You love yourself. You deserve to have pleasure. It's like scratching an itch you got to get rid of.
Absolutely.
So next slide is just showing my book. There is some information there that you can find about masturbation and about appreciating yourself and learning your body. So you can get a free ebook download or paperback on Amazon. Just go to my site, Dr. Stacy Friedman, and click on the book link, and you can find different ways to get the book. And it's a very easy read and helpful. And so if anyone needs any help trying to figure out how to get rid of any shame, how to masturbate properly, where you can get some better ideas on learning your body, and even just sex education. Some people don't even know where parts are. They can call me and I can help out. My passion,
Absolutely.
yeah, my passion is helping you create yours. That's what I like to say. So
Dr. Stacy Friedman, 561-899-7669, and Dr. Friedman's website, drstacyfriedman.com, or email Dr. Stacy. It's stacy@drstacy.org.
it's a lot of
Well,
Stacy.
you make all these topics so easy and comfortable. So I think that you're an amazing person to work with. For who's your perfect client? What type of struggles someone should have if they're thinking of consulting with you?
I work with all aspects of sexuality, but anybody that just wants to talk about sex in a non-judgmental environment and be able to get good, high quality information from someone who's not only educated by the classroom, but through my own personal journeys as well. And I just connect with people, anybody who has any sexual hangups about their bodies, about themselves, about their intimacy with their partners, and just being comfortable in their own skin. I like to say to people that, you need to be true to you. And I like to help people be true to themselves.
So well said. Be true to yourself. So if you're struggling with confidence, with your relationship with your partner, consider working with Dr. Stacy Friedman, because sex can save a relationship. It can save a marriage. So invest the time and consult with Dr. Friedman. What do you have to lose? Absolutely only to gain. So this was incredible. I love it. So what was your number one overall law of sex for the night?
Is that sex with yourself? What did Woody Allen say? Now you're making I go back to Woody Allen.
Oh,
Is don't knock masturbation. It's sex with someone you love.
I think that is an awesome sentiment. And this has been a great episode of The Laws of Sex. Thank you so much, Dr. Stacy in the house.
Special K.
What's
It's
that?
okay. Enjoy your special K.
There
And
you
masturbate
go.
at the same time.
We had a lot of great audience participation, made it so much
you,
fun.
Cheryl.
Thanks, Cheryl, for engaging in the conversation. Everybody out there, thanks for watching The Laws of Sex. Have a
See you
great
next week.
night. Good night, doctor.